Welcome. I am a I just found this out. I'm a gravitologist, which is a collector of ties. I'll give you the down and dirty history of ties. Strip of cloth, bow, done. Everything revolves around that. It started, actually, the Romans thought that neckwear was effeminate, but there was one legion that wore kerchiefs. And then when the terracotta armies were uncovered, they found kerchiefs around them. But they attribute the Croatians to the first tie that they used to hold their collar together. The French loved it and came up with the cravat. And then they just kind of went crazy with it. They put ribbons around it, put bows. It's wrapped around once, twice, 3 times. They can be actually more than 6 feet long. Bows. Then they started doing lace, and we have Jabot, that type, and we also started going into stocks. This is a very stiff piece that's covered, and then they bow tie it, and they actually have like some kind of fastener on the back, so they just put it on. You can't breathe, you can't move your head. Then we got into another type of stock. This one is just kind of bunched up material, and then there's a buckle in the back. And then we go into smart cravats in the Victorian age with a barrel knot. And then these guys also brought it down here. Any knot that they could think of to tie in it, they would. Then we got all formal with this, and we came up with the day ascot. And then they had also this version of the day ascot, as opposed to Dr. Bones, who's wearing the ascot you're more familiar with, like Bogart wore one, Jimmy Stewart wore one. And then where are we at? And we're going into the late Victorian. And we're going to have bow ties and bow ties. And we go out west. And we have string ties or bootlace ties. You see those in all the westerns. The very simple ties started coming out with a simple knot, Victorian knot. It's a oriental knot, just a simple wrap around and down and through. And you're thinking about cowboys still with that string. We've got the kerchief, long one, wore it front, wore it tight, wore it up on the face. In the 40s, they actually started coming out with polo ties. And we get into modern ties and our lovely knots, and I have a tie and a tie. If you're going to wear a tie and you don't like one, it's probably because you're wearing it too tight, you feel uncomfortable with it, or it just hangs about like Dilbert. So you can get a vest, you can get a sweater, a V-neck. You can start tying your tie in different knots. And we'll come up here. and get into your fancy knots, and you'll feel more comfortable because you'll kind of stand out. And if people comment on your tie, then you're not going to feel as uncomfortable because people are noticing you instead of just overlooking you. Then, of course, there's, let me go back to accessories. We have the tie chain. We have the tie bar, the tie pins, and these attach to your shirt and keep them from going forward. And the tie ring, which actually I'll put this way low. You'll run this up on top here. And then you have scarves. This scarf, this type of scarf, silk scarf, embroidered scarf, cotton scarf, wool scarf, and there are, I have no idea how many ways to tie this scarf. Then if you don't have a scarf, you don't have a tie, but you have those bandanas, you tie two bandanas together, and women probably know this about their sweaters. You just fold it in half, and then you have neckwear, and it hangs down. Kind of looks like the ones that they use like in the desert. That's about it. I can show you close-ups of anything you want. Anybody have any questions? That was a fast, down and dirty intro.
I do. It's in the chat. It's in the chat. Yeah, I said, are the tie pin, the tie bar, and the tie ring all that exist in the realm of fastening ties to shirts?
And what's your question, Micah?
Oh, and the tie chain too. I was wondering if all the things you showed us were all the things that existed to keep your tie on your shirt.
Oh, no. There are, people come up with everything that you can think of. And if you have a little lapel pin, you can use that on your tie too.
That's
anything
awesome.
that you want to accentuate it, keep it kind of small. And remember, it's just supposed to be an accent, not the main. You want the tie, your view drawn to the tie, not the pins.
Yeah.
They just kind of set everything off. Especially with a plain tie, they can really set it off.
I don't like my extravagant ties personally, but yeah, I really like the tie you. I like the tie you have on actually best out of all of these. But and then there's the tie with all the pins and things. That was interesting, and yeah, I like those two best so far.
They claim that there's more than this, but I found 87 ways to tie a tie. And remember your details. I see people all the time like this, and it's horrible. I can't stand it.
Uncentered tie or
uncentered. You always bring it up. You should never see that. You should never see that button. If you have a wide collar, tie a wide knot. If you have a narrow collar, tie a narrow knot.
Got it.
Just watch people on TV.
The edge of, you should never see like the edge of the tie, right? The thing fastening it to the back of your neck.
Yeah.
Awesome. I've got to remember that next time I'm tying ties. Or Sissy's tying my ties because I still haven't quite mastered it.
Well, and this is why actually I'm really, Clifford, thank you, because I am Micah's sister. You might, if you heard that before. And my dad even has me come in to tie Micah's ties, and I only know like
He
4 knots.
doesn't even do that.
Anyway, I only know 4 knots, and so this has all been really fascinating. Obviously, during pandemic year, I haven't been tying ties, but anyway, no, I love this.
Yeah, I'll loan you some of my ties, sissy. Don't worry.
You are special if you know 4 knots. Most people know 1, and it's a simple one.
Well, as soon as you said wide, I put Micah in a double Windsor because I like the wide. So yep, I even have a favorite of my 4 knots.
Oh, a double Windsor is kind of a medium one.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
It's the widest I knew of my 4 knots.
They start calling them Trinities, and they have all kinds of names for them.
Oh, to sit on. You want to use the chair to sit
This
on?
one here,
I'm unmuted, okay? So I'm pointing.
this one here is quite wide.
Oh, I like that one.
That
That's
one's
See,
great.
by the
Yeah.
time I'm done, I'm left with this much tail.
okay.
That's so little. Yeah, it's cool.
And this tail sits behind it and showcases this tie.
And it pops it out. So no, I love. Okay, now I need to. What's the name of that one again?
You know, I tied some 12 knots in the past week, and I honestly
Tie some
can't
knots
remember
for
all.
us.
Pardon?
I'm sorry.
Tie some knots for us.
Tie some knot. Do some tying for us. At least the neck stock. Show people how that works.
A neck stock? Oh, I love that.
Oh boy.
Hey, Frank, give me this.
Cliff, when you got a minute, could you tell us what type of ties would be appropriate for the steampunk era?
Yes. Or diesel punk.
Oh, steampunk. It depends on your personality. So you always want to pick something you're comfortable with. I don't mind showing off. I don't mind people looking at me. This is a great steampunk one. The black lace just falls down your chest. As Dawn knows, I love my cravats. They're so soft and silky, and you can tie so many knots, and you tie them up and it looks one way, and you keep them down here and it looks another way. And sometimes you even bring the knot all the way down here, and it's very casual. What's the other one for steampunks? This is a good one for steampunks. The formal ascot, as well as the standard ascot, because it just gives you all that, and it gives you all kinds of stuff that you can gather if you want to and change how it falls on you.
And if I ever fail with ties, I would like you to assist me in any way that you can.
Oh, I always will. I always will.
Fear not. I just really would like that.
And I won't be insulted. You take over my job.
This is a neck stock. It was really popular with the military. Very quick, easy to put on. This one is actually made of a, it's something between a cotton and a linen. Let's see. Nobody likes this one. This is a self-tie bow tie.
Wow!
Yep. You got to tie this yourself.
Weird.
You have to tie this yourself. If you can tie your shoes, you can tie a bow tie.
Will you tie it for us?
It is that easy.
Will you tie it for us?
Yes, please. I want to see with those 2 fabrics. It's going to look fantastic and
I
everything.
can't tie my shoes.
Now it's not straight because I don't have a mirror, but it's that quick.
Do it again.
Shoelaces. In, around. So, around the back. Through the loop. And bingo.
And that's perfectly straight, I'll tell you.
Oh, is
That
it?
is perfect.
I actually am a major Christmas wrapper using satin ribbon and stuff. So what you're talking about like that is, there is one direction to make the loop work. And I wear scarves. I've got like 300 of them. So, you know, I know how to tie to make it look, but that's something that is just not intuitive and people don't get. And it's such a small thing. So wonderful. Love it.
Great, great. Let's see.
One other question about, speaking of scarves, how
Yeah.
do you think you would wear an 11-foot Doctor Who scarf? If you had
Well,
one.
Tie it in a bow.
you want to use up some of the material. See, these aren't that long.
That,
So this is 6. So I would fold it in half, I think, and then bring it around with a loop.
oh wow, that is.
And then take your loops and just bring them under once. And then bring your other over. And since it's a Doctor Who, go ahead and let it hang down here.
Yes. That's good. Thank you.
And if you really have trouble tying a bow tie, you can do this.
Yay. I have several.
If you notice though, what you didn't see were any clip-on ties. I just will not do them. I won't do them at all.
I
I
not to.
test them and nobody should wear them. The same with the pre-tied ties. You saw how easy it is to tie a tie, so there's no reason not to. Let me see if I can pull this one off because I just learned it.
"87 ways."
I'm kind of excited about this one. Whoa.
This is
I
epic.
did it backwards. This is supposed to be one of the easiest ones to do, and I find it to be a little difficult for me.
Yeah,
My
it's
hands just want to do the
different.
fancy ones.
Very different from standard operating procedure.
Actually, I would loop this around my neck right now.
Loop away if you want.
Just loop it.
Okay. I posted videos. You can see how that one's done. It's called a 4-in-hand. Okay, I said you could make a tie out of just about anything. I showed you what to do with 2 handkerchiefs. You can take your regular handkerchief and you can take and wear it and tuck it in like an ascot. You can roll it up into kind of a wide handkerchief like the stock, and wear that around your neck. You can fold it or you can pleat it. That robe I told you to grab the belt from, you can take this and we're back to a bow again. I guess I can't tie my shoelaces.
Use the force, Cliff. Use the force.
Let go. But
Okay,
don't let
and then-
go.
The beauty of this is you make the medium bow, you have medium tails, make the big bow, short tails, and the other way, small bow, long tails. This is a good one for steampunk because of those three things that you can do. Most of you know that I wear a vest all the time, and that is my tie keeper. And there are, if you don't like your tie flapping, you don't have anything to hold it, you can make some of these knots. And I have one.
Is it okay to let your tie flap?
Your tie will only be about this long. You'll have a really fancy knot here, and the tail actually comes and wraps around. So you don't have this big tie flopping all the time. So you can adjust your knot to what you're wearing and how you want to look. But if you do go for that casual look, don't be sloppy. Just like doing your up against your neck, make sure that, you know, you don't want to look like you did it, like you want it to look casual and natural, but it's all in the details again. Just make sure it's all straight.
Did anybody here watch Versailles? Do you remember Louis and his brother had those fantastic frothy things, and then they had bows on top of them, like his gray example? That was amazing in that
I
show.
haven't seen Versailles, but I know the period.
Yeah. Men were the peacocks then in the 18th century.
Oh dear goodness, yes, and the 17th century too. Don't forget, Louis the 14th was in the 17th century.
Oh yeah, he was quite the.
Yeah, l'état c'est moi.
And everything here has been worn by both men and women at one time or the other, and it's accepted for men in one period and it's not in another, and vice versa. So yes, this is for men and women.
Awesome.
Has anybody noticed the pussy bow is popular with women again? And that was a big thing in the 80s. You've probably seen Kamala Harris wear this. It's a very thin bow, usually attached to a silk blouse. I think it has a terrible name, the pussy bow or the pussy tie. But that's a thing again. I remember in the 80s when I was working in offices in Silicon Valley was not cool. You had to wear, I was in a creative field, I was in advertising, and I still had to wear a suit if I wanted to be taken seriously at all, especially as someone in their 20s. And we wore those a lot, like, or ribbon ties, you know.
Lorraine, I was in San Francisco when you were in the Silicon Valley, and I was wearing that same thing at that same time in law firms where it's
Right.
before I went to law school, and 100%, and they were horrible, but what could you do? You gotta be tough and stuff, but you want to be a little bit frothy.
Right, Right. Yeah. It was this big thing about women wearing power suits and like, oh, they're trying too hard.
Right.
I imagine, especially in law. I mean, advertising, I mean, we didn't wear jeans to work. I mean, like, really, it's ridiculous. Silicon Valley can be blamed for Casual Friday and Hawaiian shirts. That's where that started at Intel and Hewlett Packard. And and it was like ridiculous to us who were artists, but they were trying so hard to not be Wozniak in the garage anymore once they got some money. And all these people, they hired all these money people and accountants from the East Coast who brought in suddenly, almost like overnight. I was working for Atari and things changed overnight. When I used to have 3 people sign off a piece of artwork, I had to have 20. And
Right.
people were wearing suits to work. It was really a shock for all of
for Atari.
Yeah, oh yeah, everybody started wearing ties. It was a weird power thing. It was a strange time. It was very much like being in Versailles.
There you go. There you go.
What games did you work on?
I worked on all the early Atari games. I did the packaging. I did the boxes.
Well, nice. And you were still being
That's awesome.
I went from being a theater major and getting a degree in theater to working, because I was exploring different avenues, going from that to going and working in these big time San Francisco law firms. And let me tell you, there was a whole thing about attire, and I was very confused in that era. So I totally get it.
My friend Joanna is here visiting.
Oh, hello.
Oh, hi. Uh-oh, I got an echo from Michael.
Oh, yeah. Introduce yourselves.
Michael, turn yours off for a minute. Hi, I'm Nancy, and my friend Joanna is here visiting, and she used to talk about that era where the women had those bows as women as presents. It was the era of women as presents. What do you think? Yeah, I think that was it. A lot. It had to toughen it up,
As a young woman working in advertising,
the guys.
As a young woman working in advertising, it was not a fun time. They had told us that, we believed this growing up, that women can do anything, and there's no such thing as sexual harassment. But believe me, there was, and I was a freelancer. So I essentially, most of the time, so I had no status. I had to just, I had problems with some people. I had an art director just kiss me full on the mouth one day. I couldn't tell my husband because he would come and kill him. There was nobody I could tell except the other women in the office. And they're like, oh, we're sorry. We thought we warned you about him. He's a nice guy, but yeah, he's really touchy-feely. And I'm like, I was a freelancer in a small firm. And this was actually in San Mateo County, so it was a little bit more like San Francisco. It was a little bit, there really weren't fancy ad agencies in Silicon Valley yet. So they were a little bit more formal. There was nobody I could talk to. I just had to get another job.
Oh, it's too bad.
That's what it was like. I mean, literally.
In my law firm in that area, you're asking about that, where I actually, in this one year at a great firm who treated me so well when I was a paralegal before I went to law school and continued on. But in that one year, I had a female lawyer tell me, sitting in her office that I worked for, saying, you have to dress for the job you want, meaning I was not dressing right. And then, just the year before was a lawyer I worked with. I moved law firms after that happened, but he gave me a $500 in 1980. Oh my gosh, what? So that was a lot, but still a $500 gift certificate to Nordstrom's because the firm wasn't doing bonuses. But again, speaking to me, and it was just like going, if I could only dress up the way I know how to do and can do, well, y'all would pay attention to me and not be giving me so much guff. Anyway, wow. No, that was a tough time. It was a tough time.
I bet historically, and Cliff's probably noticed that, you could probably track what's happening with gender issues with ties. Wouldn't that
Yeah.
be great paper? Like right now, women are
Absolutely
asserting
agree.
themselves in politics, so they're wearing ties.
I vote for that, Clifford, because you know what? We've noticed with, some unfortunately super limited tie options from the person who happens to be still sitting at the White House. But no, there is all sorts of things with that. I want to know more, Clifford. We need a follow-up to this so we know more. You need to educate.
We need to learn all 87 tie knots.
Oh, this
All-
could go in about five different presentations.
Do you want to come back in January?
Come
For
back.
the bitch in January? And
Do I want to come back in February?
January.
Okay, he's saying
February?
February. Well, thumbs up. I vote for
And
that.
also,
But
before
we'll
I
work that out later.
I had a small proposal for the tea either in January or February, and I was thinking we could do either Star Wars or sci-fi as the theme. Maybe.
I love that. Did we
Because
have someone
it'd be-
else new pop on besides Nancy? Kind of lost track there. If you're new and you haven't introduced yourself, please uncloak and say hello. But I would love to see Clifford tie more stuff.
I'm not new, but I am. I'm in here too. Michael,
Hi, Michael.
howdy.
Hello.
He's our resident wizard.
Indeed.
Resident Evil Wizard.
Even better.
Yep, Resident Saruman.
Okay, this requires a whole different discussion, I think. Personas and dressing up, yeah.
Yep.
Being your alter egos, and you know what's wonderful about Portland is we can be our alter egos. Like when we used to go out, nobody would really be shocked. Like sometimes the hipsters would kind of diss us. It looked like when we were dressed as pirates, but really they secretly wanted to be pirates.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of dressing for the job you want, not the job you have, when I was working in education and I had to go to a district-wide technology meeting and do a presentation on Halloween. God knows why they scheduled that. In my dreams, I thought I was going to have time after school to go home and change my clothes. No, instead I had to go to the district office and go to a meeting with about 40 people dressed as an 18th century styled Captain Hook.
Well, just like you said, everyone secretly wants to be a pirate. I mean, that's absolutely true.
I just said,
are a little more open about it.
I just said software pirate. Hello. Don't let your kids pirate software. So, I was able to segue.
Airship pirate.
I had to pirate some software from my old radios because that software is not available from Motorola anymore. They're the same radios used in Jurassic Park. And yeah, they're really old. So obviously I can't get the right kind of software I need for them.
At least as old as the ties we've been talking about, right, Micah?
At least, yeah. This is from like 1990s radios, like
There you go. Okay.
1990s police radios in particular, because they're like used for security and containing raptors and fun stuff like that.
Excellent. Well, let's hang on ties. Yeah.
Well, I have a question for Clifford. If a Tyrannosaurus Rex were to wear a tie, what would they wear? Not putting you on the spot or anything here. If dinosaurs wore ties,
they would wear big bow ties.
I love it. That's just glorious.
Polka dot.
I'm just kind of imagining a Tyrannosaurus polka dot bow tie.
Now the thinner ones would wear a black skinny tie, like what, Men in Black. Okay, I can show you how to tie another tie. You have your standard tie, and you want a skinny tie for this. I've tried it with fat ties, and it doesn't look good. Remember, I just said a fat bow tie. So you have the little loop on the back. You take your point and just fold it in a little bit and slip it in that loop. Just a little bit. Then you fold it, your tie, and then you fold it back. And you bring it over the front. Come to the back. That back loop that you had, you bring it through.
You're off camera now. We can't see you.
I always go the wrong way for it. Get back on. And bring it there. And you've got your bow tie. Here's what you're going to put around your neck. This is a really long tie, so it's not the best one either. Just slip it back through the one you just came through. You put it on, and you take all that tail, and you put behind your shirt, and then you straighten your bow out. And then you have a bow tie out of your regular tie. So if you say you don't have a bow tie, you can't dress up. Yes, you do, because you have at least one tie sitting around somewhere. Most people do. They just don't want to wear it. On our site, I posted a couple of links, and I'll grab some more links and post them for you. They're really great tutorials on how to tie ties. One is a video and one is not, but they give you step by step. And the videos, they show one turn of your tie and they do it really slow. So you can actually follow them faster than they are showing you. So they're not just looping around and doing it. You can really tie a tie. And if you're going to go to an event, tie your tie the night before. And that way you can spend all the time that you want on it without getting frustrated.
But you forget the rest of us are madly sewing the night before.
Tie with a short sleeve shirt. It's wrong. It's just put a bag over your head, please.
You only have to take 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's one of my 5-minute projects, the accessories.
Right. Sorry, that was Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie reference that nobody's gonna get.
And anything else? Oh, I'll tie another tie for you. I love this one. Done deal.
Do it again.
Very elegant. Very elegant.
Do it again for us slow people. How long is that piece of fabric or whatever you have there?
It's wonderful.
This is pre-made.
Oh, it's a puff
fabric
tie. Okay.
Fabric this wide.
Hmm?
It is, what is that, about 4 feet?
Okay.
That's got a pleat.
So it's that wide.
Sort of a
It's
pleat
gathered
sort of
here where it goes around the neck. And then it comes back into its width.
There's a Vogue pattern that essentially has this tie, but I'll warn everyone, like depending on your neck size, they don't size it by neck size. So it's a Vogue pattern that they've reprinted since, I don't know, since the beginning of time. You can usually find it. It'll have a bow tie pattern like he showed. It'll have, I call those puff ties. And what that does in the back with that narrow strip is it reduces the bulk behind your collar, which is really nice.
Yes.
And I made some for my husband, but he's a 16 and a half, 17 neck size. And these were way too short. They were more like 15. So, you know, like always with patterns, you know, I made them for gifts, so I didn't measure them or anything. I thought, oh, this is a Vogue pattern, it'll be fine. And then they're all too tight for him. So I should give them to you. I made a couple of them. But I just want to say there is that pattern easily available. Generally, they run it. If usually at this time of year in the catalog, you'll find it under men's formal wear. Or you can pick up a vintage version that might have something a little different. But anyway, do want to warn you about that pattern. It's available, but like anything, I guess because it's an accessory, and it was for young men, they figured they didn't need to put any measurement on it. So always measure your neck. Just like with any pattern, measure yourself and don't trust the pattern. But anyway, go ahead, do it again. It's really a fun tie.
Well, if you're on size, we'll talk about size. I'm a 15 and a half neck, so I always buy a 16 neck shirt.
Okay.
The biggest thing is people say their tie is choking them.
Right.
Well, their shirt is choking them. And if they have the right size shirt, which is about half a size too big, and they're choking themselves, then they tied their tie too tight.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't be bunching your collar when you pull your tie tight, but it should fit up here. So you need to make sure that your shirt is the right size first.
Right.
Then you start talking about your tie, and I'll show you if you can see. This red one is a standard size, and the black one keeps going and going. It's
Also,
about 6 inches
speaking-
longer. When you tie your tie, you want it to rest just above your belt or just at the very end of that belt. You never put it below your belt, and you never have it hanging like Laurel and Hardy halfway down your chest is all.
Also, speaking of dinosaurs with ties, yeah.
Well, they have to pick their tie based on their body type and personality.
Obviously
Yeah.
they do, but it sounds like you're still folding and going, whether it be dinosaurs or that fabulous tie you just had.
Yep. There.
So Clifford, I do have a question that actually would be really something to do, that'd be really great for like another workshop, or if you can answer it now. But it'd be really nice to know for us newbies what, like if we measure our neck, okay, great, we have a neck measurement. Now we need to know what the length of fabric is that we need for that neck measurement for different ties, or for different knots rather.
Most of the knots are based on, these are standard ties. And if I tie a full Windsor, it will come just a hair. Actually, with my neck size, it will come right where it's supposed to land. Some of the other knots, you can adjust the tail a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I will adjust my tail. Sometimes it just barely fits through the loop in the back. Sometimes I use a tie tack because it doesn't go down that far, but I still want my tie to be lay where it's supposed to.
Yeah.
So I can adjust the same size tie to fit where I want based on that tail.
So I'm mostly thinking about like the steampunk things.
Mhm.
If you like think, okay, if you want a cravat to look like this, and your neck size is this, you need to start with fabric at this length, and just have charts, because I'm sure that most of you guys who sew can actually just, you have this instinctual thing, you were born with the knowledge to do this. But if there is a possible way to get something wrong when a piece of fabric meets a pair of scissors, I will find the way to make that be wrong.
Okay, now I know exactly what you're talking about because I did exactly that. So I bought one of these cravats,
Mhm.
and it is a double wrap, and I wanted to make one of my own,
Uh-huh.
and I know how long this falls once I tie it. So I went and I made one out of cotton, and I made it, I doubled this up, I
Mhm.
tied the knot that I wanted, and I said, I don't want that much tail. So I measured how much that was, and then I only made this one that long. So I pre-tied something else and used that as my measurement.
Okay.
And then these are really easy to make because you just fold a piece of fabric in half, you sew it, you turn it inside out, and then you iron it so that the seam runs right down the middle of it. You can make a flat across, you can make it pointed, you can make it an angled cut. Your ties come in both points and cut straight across. Usually the knit ones or some of the wool ones will be cut straight across.
I just
And
wanted to interject there. Even sewing a small accessory like this, just like with any sewing, and I resist this all the time, I admit, is make a mock-up. Buy yourself some sheets or use your old sheets or some muslin. I mean, that's the purpose of muslin at your fabric shop. Wash it so it's nice and drapey. It's not going to be like using silk, but do all your experimentation there, because patterns do not replicate you. Everyone is a little bit different. Now, if we're talking about, fitting a shirt or even a tie, like I said, this Vogue pattern, they only thought young men were going to be wearing these for weddings, I guess. So they didn't even include any information about that you need to measure a men's neck size. And if I'd talked to my husband, he would have said, "Oh, don't make it too short." Men know this more because they wear ties more. But still,
no, they
make
don't.
that mock-up. You don't have to often sew the whole thing, just sew part of it. So to get over I have a phobia about cutting nice fabric. I'm especially because when I started to sew, I was really, really broke in college, and I didn't have time. I didn't have fabric, and this was like the one piece of fabric that I'd save for months to cut, and I was so afraid of doing it wrong. And it seemed to me just extra work to cut it out of muslin, and it is extra work, but then you have it for the next time. So the next time you want to review, like I found that
Making
there's
this sound like work, though.
I know. I exactly know what you mean. I'm more like get her done. I need a tie or whatever. But in the long run, it's like Clifford's ex carpenter. Measure twice, cut once. That applies here very much.
Yeah, because it's like, I mean, this is about the only project that I thought maybe, just maybe, I could make a long rectangular piece of fabric. Maybe that's within my skill set. Maybe. I'm not convinced, but
After 45 years of not sewing, I made the cravats pretty easily. So there's hope, Shauna. It's not. It's possible.
Awesome. I'm hoping to not be not sewing by the time I'm 26.
You're so ancient.
The
Could
self ties
go ahead.
are adjustable. It has your neck size on the back. So you just adjust this to your neck size and you will always tie your knot right and it'll fit your shirt.
Those of you who don't know about the place, the formal wear store on, is it 6th or 7th? Southeast? 7th. Is a wonderful resource. You can go buy bow ties and crazy colors for like $2. So, what's the name of that place? I always get the name of it screwed up.
Mr. Formal.
Mr. Formal. Thank you. Yeah, some of you have been there. And they have a parking lot sale at least twice a year where things are even deeper discounted. What's wonderful about that place is they will actually do alterations and they will hem your pants. So even though you're buying, and these are things that are retired from rentals. So you shop for winter clothes in the summer and you shop for white suits in the winter. And a white tuxedo jacket, you could put L-wire on that. You could paint it. There's all kinds of really cool things you could do. Like for our upcoming Enchanted Forest Ball, it'd be wonderful if someone, you want it to be formal and you don't really have a time period or character you want to be, buy yourself a white tuxedo jacket and paint it. Or get someone who has a pre-cut. Hey, I just bought one to make you an iron-on or vinyl and, embellish that thing. That was, embellishing clothes was a really big thing in the 70s. Art clothing or, doing various like stitching on clothes or even quilting or crazy quilting on top of a garment is really beautiful. You can use up all your scraps. And that's becoming really popular again. And then you have really a one-of-a-kind piece of artwork. And again, it can be crazy. It does not have to be perfect, like kind of the wilder it is. I mean, throw paint at it. Do a Jackson Pollock on it with glow-in-the-dark paint. That would be fabulous for the Enchanted Forest. These are all things that are very accessible for people to do. And that jacket would probably cost you about $30, at least during one of the sales, even maybe less. Of course, it helps if you're a plus-size person or a teeny tiny person because the middle sizes sell out first. But, if you plan about a year in advance, like now's a really great time. Hopefully we'll be able to have this event next October. If we can't do it in October, we'll move it back to March in 2022. It all depends on this vaccine right now. But, start, if you can, shop on eBay or Etsy or vintage clothes places. Maybe the lady who's a vintage person wants to talk about sources of, and this would include, fabrics or accessories, even ties like this. If you're not sure you want to make them yet, you want to buy one first and look at it. Now's a really great time to spend that time kind of looking for those things. Generally in January, I used to do Goodwill hunting. We won't be able to do it this year, but those stores are open. And if you want to know thrift stores in Southwest, I'm happy to give you my map and you can go. I'm personally not going shopping anywhere right now. I'm in those categories of high risk, so I'm just not doing it. But if you feel confident, you want to wear a mask and you want to go out and thrift shop, I don't know, has anybody been shopping? I haven't, but I bet there's great stuff out there right now. Everyone's Marie Kondoing their closets, so it might be a great time.
Yeah. The last time I was in any store at all was March 13th. I have my groceries delivered or I pick them up curbside.
I've been living in my crawl space. It's a lot safer there.
Exactly. Is there anybody here that has been out to the thrift shops?
I went to Value Village and I got 10 patterns for $1 each.
Oh, wow.
I was just in the corner by myself flipping through these patterns. Nobody around me.
I love that pattern section there at the Tigard one. I mean, it's practically the only one left now. But yeah, that's my secret, that Value Village. And for us old folks, if you're 55 and over, Tuesdays are 40% off.
I think I went to the Mill End store right as they were starting to implement social distancing.
Mm-hmm. I haven't been to a thrift shop since February, but I have been on Etsy. So there you go. And
Like,
eBay
Yeah, I've been
And Amazon.
and Amazon.
That's terrible.
the online whatever is good. I've been doing groceries and kind of the cute stuff. The thing for me though is I do public transportation. I don't have a car, and so basically, since you were saying March 13th for you, but me is March 16th. If I can't walk there, I don't go there. Other than twice, I did break my leg, so I actually had to get myself to OHSU and get it attended to, which I wasn't walking up the hill on a broken leg, but no, I get it. And I am looking forward to seeing what may be there in these thrift shops and things when we can more safely get out. I'm kind of looking forward to it.
Well,
I wanted to say it's good to see Shauna again. Shauna, you look like you're doing really well and look very healthy and happy.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm at my 6th week, which is about when they said, and I'm feeling so much better. I mean, the surgery site is still a little bit owie, but my general health has been so much better. It's like exciting. I can do stuff. I have energy. I mean, yeah, wow. I actually, working towards having a life. It's exciting.
Yeah, my dad who put the tie on the pteranodon. You may have remembered the pteranodon with the tie. Yeah. Anyway, my dad has had multiple surgeries, but not recently. So yeah, I empathize.
I have a quick question for Clifford.
Sure.
Clifford, in the advertisement or in the Facebook today, there was a gold silky looking tie, a big poofy bow tie, and a high white collar with a black vest. And you must have selected that photograph from somewhere, unless you took it. And I was wondering what kind of collar and scarf tie was that made with? Can you tell us about? I was wondering if you can take a man's white shirt and just pick up those collar points and create a tie under there, or do you have to have a special collar to wear something like that?
You can make anything pre-made that you want. Like this one, that's all pre-tied and everything, just attaches in the back. Like I have over here. This is the collar cut off the shirt so that I can put on dummies to put my ties on so that they're not just like a Mr. Bones, his neck's only this big. So I use something like that. Are you talking about the picture that I keep putting up in place of me?
I think she's talking about the picture that I posted.
Oh,
And
yes.
I posted that one, and I can't remember where I found it, but it was someone's blog, and it was just so beautiful. The secret of that is, yes, that's a kind of a late 18th century style shirt. They did wear the collars up like that. It's what we now would be like what became of that was what we call wing collar, which are worn with formal wear like a morning coat. And what's beautiful about that is simply a piece of China silk. Silk, like any other fabric, comes in different weights. China silk is what your scarves and handkerchiefs and maybe lingerie is made of. It's very, very thin and fine and floaty, but silk is very strong. And it doesn't really wrinkle, so you can tie it and retie it, and it's a lot of fabric. That's kind of the secret to the opulence of this, is lots and lots of frothy, very fine fabric. You can simulate that fabric with a non-silk that Joanne sells that's very inexpensive. I think their regular price is under $6 a yard. And I'll look up the name of that fabric and I will post it. I usually do like links after this in our Time Travelers group, our discussion group. so that people can follow up later. So please check back in the group. It might be tomorrow right now, the way my day's going, unless Clifford wants to start the thread. I mean, Clifford, you could start that thread tonight, and then other people could add their links or to things they found, or to, you know, like that. Somebody could post that, outlet store for the formal wear. Again, I mean, we post that all the time, but, you know, we always have new people showing up, and that is kind of specific to Portland, but there may be a formal wear outlet in your town. So look for those kinds of things. But
Also,
I will post the name of this fabric, and I would suggest buying some, Shauna. It comes in all different colors. It looks like silk. It handles like silk, but it's not $25 a yard. It's like on sale. You could probably get it for $3 a yard. All you need for a 6-foot long tie, remember, a yard is 36 inches or 3 feet of fabric. So all you need really is a yard. But buy this cheap fabric, cut out some pieces. You know, I suggest getting a, you know, it's hard to cut silk. You use pattern weights. It helps, you know, or get someone to help you hold it down, pin it to your ironing board. You know, that's a whole different subject. But cut it up, you know, buy yourself some cheap fabric to experiment with. And it's a very nice fabric. It comes in kind of watered pebble texture and a smooth texture in all different colors. And because it's Joann's, the colors change by the season. And I can't for the life of me think of the name of it. It's in the silky section. And you don't really notice it because it's just kind of like blah. Lining material. That's something you can often find at thrift shops. And it may be polyester, but you're not wearing this on a large part of your body. So I would say, you know, a lot of us are fabric snobs, but I would say polyester for ties is perfectly okay.
Ow, 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 ow.
Ow.
You didn't say that.
And the good thing about polyester will be much more washable. If you get water spots or grease spots from dinner on your silk tie, you're going to need a new one.
Sorry, I only unmuted for Lorian's comment and your laugh. I'm just saying, I'm back to mute.
okay, so yeah, there's one more thing I wanted to announce. If you still have some gifts that you want to claim from September, I think. Yeah, it was September when I hosted last time. I still have your gifts, mostly. Yeah.
Yeah, Michael was nice enough to do door prizes, some very fancy ones, at his tea party. And this was just out of the generosity of his soul. He's a very kind and generous person. And there was, I know a lady in Silverton won something, and she said that's okay. I think it was one of the dolls. And Mary, did you win a doll, or she was going to give you the doll? So you guys work that out. I don't know what's going on with that.
They worked it out, but yeah, I've got these 3 that are going to Cliff.
Okay.
Whenever I get time to actually bring them to him or leave them at his door secretly like a ninja.
Okay.
We can meet up halfway in between.
Or we could meet up halfway in between, yeah, I guess. Yeah, that would work. And yeah, these are an excellent quality DVDs. And yeah, they're really something. They don't have that last disc. They added a disc later, but yeah, anyway.
So, Clifford, I still wanted to ask more about the collar.
Oh, sure.
The modern shirt has a sort of riser, like a strip, and then the collar is sewn on with the 2 points coming down. But what kind of collar do you need? And do you have to buy it at a formal shop, or can you just flip the edges up, the points of the collar up? How would you?
I flip them up, and I take those plastic pieces out.
Yes.
And that will keep my shirt coming down like this. It's not a wingtip because it's way too tall of a collar, but it makes a tall collar, and they kind of fold over like this. When they started in the 1600s, they had these big collars that just came up. They weren't even really collars. They were just a bunch of material sewn at where the curve is. Then the same thing, they're just covering them. And sometimes you'd see just a, but they use so much material that the thing actually came up in their neck until they got to the point where they were tired of throwing shirts out because the collars were bad. So they started coming out with detachable collars like this. This is a paper collar, and it's just a street collar. And they made them everything from really stiff 3 inches to your wingtips, to your rounded tips. You could get any one that you want. In fact, there is a company that you can still buy them from that made them originally over 150 years ago.
Okay.
So you can flip your collar up and do all kinds of things with it. When you go to the thrift store, flip that collar up and see how it fits before you buy the shirt. Because if the points, if it's a if the points are close, then it's going to overlap like this when you try and do it. And
Yes.
you want to try and get it so they just line up almost straight up and down.
Okay. I had one other question in the chat. I said, you know, you called it a neck stock, a military style, which is it's almost like a cummerbund in that it's a strip of pleated fabric. But how does it fasten in the back? Is it hooks and eyes?
Where did I put it? This they have a buckle.
I'm not familiar with that.
Just a tab and buckle.
Oh.
The earliest ones you simply tie around your neck, though. You do not have to have that.
Okay.
Could you like that? Could you tie that one for us? The long neck stock with the 6 feet, because that's really the easiest one. Like buy yourself some China silk that's 6 feet long. So use a yard, cut it to 6 to 8 inches wide. Do a rolled hem on that little piece of fabric, and you have a very flexible piece that you could use as a neck stock style, a puff style, or you could tie in a bow. That's the first thing I would recommend that people do. If you want to buy some fabric for your first, it's like 6 feet, seems ridiculous, I know. And you fold it in halves or quarters. It depends on the thickness of your fabric and how. I have a really short neck. I hate things around my neck, but this will even kind of hide your double chin if your bow's frothy enough.
What kind of collar goes with a neck stock?
It would be, like he said, a stand-up collar.
Stand-up collar.
You normally would not have the collar showing at all. You can't see a collar.
Oh.
You fold that collar up, like he said, and then you simply tie this fabric around it. The military guys did use buckles. They did look like cummerbunds. That was a great observation. But the very earliest versions of this simply were a 6 or 8 foot, if you're a larger man or person, piece of fabric by 6 to 8 inches, maybe even 10 inches if you had a long neck. You fold that in half. Go ahead and demonstrate how you tie that thing. There's lots of ways to tie it.
I don't have an example.
Oh, you don't have an example. I'm sorry. He doesn't have an example of the easy thing.
Yeah, this is this wide. See, that's what, 4 inches? Yeah, 4 inches. And then this one is 6 feet.
I'm sorry, can you stand your collar up like we were talking about on your shirt?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So you don't have to necessarily cut your collar. You could just do this with a shirt that the collar is big enough. You might want to iron it so it stands up. Use lots of starch. So am I correct? A 15.5-inch collar is generally a men's medium. Is that correct?
Yeah,
So you can tell he's got 6 feet there. He's a relatively small or petite person, and that's 6 feet.
It goes
So-
fast. But
So-
the Victorian vests are really high up here. So it's great. You can tuck a little bit if you only have a little bit. Like that bow tie I tied earlier that I said you can go wide or short. You can make that short, and then those Victorian vests will hide all that tail for you.
So although this is maybe technically late 17th century, early 18th century, I think you could wear this for steampunk. I mean, steampunk is not a particular time period. I mean, some might argue this. We won't get in that conversation, but it's a fantasy. It's a fantasy era. So give yourself a break.
This is the difference here as the years went by. So by the time you get to steampunk, you're like this. You come down from your neck from that 4 inches down to between 1.5 inches and 2. So yeah, they do work for steampunk. It's just
Well, we want to say neo-Victorian. You're talking about neo-Victorian. Steampunk isn't an era, so we can say it's neo-Victorian because it's not authentic.
Yeah. My original introduction to steampunk, before it was even called that, it was neo-Victorian based. So that's where I speak of it.
And not to start an argument, but the conventional definition still is based around the Victorian era. Although without any concern for major accuracy, although I personally really hate those dance hall girl things, but that's just me. No offense to anyone who likes to dress like a dance hall girl. Yeah, and I mean, I wear my steampunk stuff out with the Victorian costuming folks, and they're fine. They don't care.
Well, they're fine now. 10 years ago, they used to give us grief, but there you go. Things evolve, and I just want to point out that if you want to dress steampunk, don't get hung up. My point is, don't get hung up on what year it is in Victorian time or Edwardian or anything. If you're a steampunk, because you are a fantasy era, so do what you want. Just make it work and be fabulous. I mean, really. People used to say you had to wear brown to be a steampunk. Well, that's not true either. Yeah, I spent a lot of time in the very early days of steampunk talking to people about this. And I think most people are much more relaxed. When steampunk was new and people were trying to make it legitimate, I mean, I had trouble getting steampunk costuming on the program at Oricon. Okay, ridiculously enough. Even though Tim Powers was a very well-known sci-fi author and had attended as a guest speaker at Oricon, they really rejected my concept of this. And so, the early days, a lot of steampunks, and I'm talking about 2006. I mean, when people started showing up at conventions, a lot of people were really trying hard to make themselves legitimate because they were getting flack, and a lot of Victorian societies were saying, don't show up at our events in steampunk. Now things have mellowed out and people have evolved generally. You always find exceptions to that. And, you can call yourself whatever you want. I prefer the term neo-Victorian when we're talking about this because we aren't Victorians, right? We aren't using actually what they did. So we're neo. We're doing an approximation, a modern interpretation of a past style. And I just feel like, and again, I've been on all these panels and had to speak and argue in the early days. So that's why I'm a little touchy about it. I'm really happy to see more people embracing it because it's super fun. You were talking about dance hall girls. That became really popular because of the single action shooter groups who were very popular in California and Arizona because that's the time period, the 1850s. And those people started coming to conventions and there was a mixture of the single action shooting people, which are people that use guns. They want to reenact gunfights and things. And people that actually, just wanted to play with fake guns. And then there's people that don't like guns. So, there you go. But it's a fun evolution, and I'm happy it's here to stay. Just like I told the program director at Oricon, and I, I'm happy to see people dressing that way. It's a fun thing. Clifford and I, and some of us are old enough, especially if you lived in California or in the West, in the 70s and 80s. Old Sacramento. It was all about, what we would call now steampunk. Because it wasn't really accurate Victorian clothing. It was neo-Victorian with kind of a twist, a modern twist often added to the outfits. And all this stuff that we see in steampunk became popular again, like the old-timey typography and top hats and Western hats, gunfights, all that stuff that I grew up with. I was just delighted to see that repeated in a fun way where I could participate. Remember those dress-up photo studios? Did anybody ever do that? Where they'd have clothes that were open in the back?
Yeah, you could put all these costumes on and get a great picture taken. It was so fun.
I have a really cute picture of my son in a Civil War uniform with my daughter, and she's like, "You're going to war." Anyway, I digress. How are we doing for time, people? It's about 10 to 9. If you have more questions for Cliff, or you haven't had a chance to speak, please just butt in, unmute yourself, interrupt. We could do the raise the hand thing, but we're not that formal. Generally, our groups have about 12 people, which is pretty comfortable, which is really nice. So I will mute myself now, and please ask more questions of Cliff.
Please, because I can only think of so much to present to you.
Okay, so I have a question about the cravat thing that was with the pirate guy with the gray and the blue on top. Is that a thing they did where there's like almost 2 ties with 2 different colors?
Yes. These got really, really elaborate. I only tied a knot in this one. This one here has a second ribbon going around it with a bow. And both of these, they would just go nuts over.
Yeah.
So you can do just about anything that you want to do around and tie that.
We can't see your other one. It's off camera. And this is what I was talking about with the program Versailles, Shauna. Watch that program, the program Versailles.
That's not quite my era, though.
Well, it's a fun program to watch. It's very sexy.
And plus, one of the reasons that I started wearing male Victorian clothes is because while I love the look of my dress, it is like such a royal pain in the ass. And dressing in men's clothes is just so much easier, especially if it's a short event, if it's a tea or whatever, it's so much easier. Just, pull on my tailcoat, plop on my hat, and I'm good to go. And I don't have to worry about my skirt getting caught in the doors, or if I'm at a book event, I can't pack or unpack with my full costume on because the bodice is too stiff and all of that, Although Molly Wilcox is the one who made my dresses. It's a Victorian from 10 feet, and she deliberately made it so that at the end of the event, I can strip down to where, by modern definition, it's decent in public. And
let me
do my
breakdown. You, as a longtime reenactor, he used to do Ren Fair for 3 days in a row, every weekend for 6 weeks, and camping while I did it in the heat, in the hailstorms in Washington. That it's all about doing this more and more often. And you realize very quickly, if you study paintings of women at home, they're wearing a work pierre-stays or a corset, and they do not have their bodice on when they're doing work. So you kind of learn to strip in the parking lot or in your hotel room. And I made lots of bloomers, and I had a chemise, and I'd keep my, it's kind of racy for us, very puritanical Americans, but you know, we would entertain like that at cons. Like, you know, you don't wear the dress all day, but if
Well,
the
no, I would wait until the public,
and
but
natural
after,
fabrics,
yeah,
all
after the
about
fact.
natural fabrics. Do not have a dress made out of polyester. You will want to die.
Well,
So-
I had a choice of, because I couldn't afford the silk for my
Right.
steampunk.
But you
So
can afford
I had
linen.
the choice of upholstery fabric, which was not going to happen with an August book release.
Right.
And I have a thinner polyester, but
But
Molly made it.
linen and cottons, or even I can never think of the name of it.
Yeah, I wanted something silk look though, and that
Right.
was totally
Well, so,
my
you know,
vanity
that's
because
the
that
thing.
was my I wanted a steampunk dress
I'm
forever, and
not
I
not
was
being
gonna get it.
critical. I'm just saying, you know, you
Yeah.
say you're uncomfortable though, and this is why. And
Plus, yeah.
you know,
It's also just the bot. Like I said, Molly did make it so I could strip off the bot, take off the coat, strip off the bodice,
right.
and I had a chemise and bloomers underneath.
So I mean,
And
around us folks, don't be afraid of knocking about in your bloomers and chemise either.
Yeah. No, my rule of thumb is if the clock is ticked over to whatever time period, or you know, whatever the end of the event is, people are welcome to stay and talk to me, but at that point I'm down to bloomers and a chemise.
Good.
You know?
Yeah, but it's all about wearing these things repeatedly. Like I said, I used to do that in the summer and I was really comfortable, and lately I haven't been doing as much, and I realized with myself, I'm like, I used to wear a corset all day. What the heck's wrong with me? I just want to take this off. And it's just kind of like getting a new pair of shoes. You know, you need to break in that corset. You need to wear this stuff. When you construct it, make it as its clothing, not a costume. Use real fabrics, make sure it fits you, spend some time on it. You know, but your first few pieces are for fun pieces, and you know, I wear uncomfortable things to something that maybe because they're shiny and they're not real silk, I wear that to a 2 or 4 hour event. And the larger your closet gets, the easier it is to do this.
My very first, you know, costumey dress was actually a medieval Irish dress, and it was silk dupany, so there was no problem with the fabric other than the fact you didn't want to spill anything on it. But when I wore it to Oricon, there was the restaurants were all packed full. The only places that were available were the you know, the bar tables with the high stools. I could not get on a high stool wearing that damn dress. I ended up going upstairs and ordering room service.
Yeah,
And then,
try
of
being
course,
5 foot tall and built like a hobbit and try to sit in those chairs. It's rather hilarious, especially in a corset. Yeah.
well, yeah, or an Irish dress. There was no corset, but it was laced. And actually, it was kind of nice. I went upstairs and I had an excuse to order room service and take my overdress off for like half an hour, you know?
Oh, and I do want to say, a friend and I would drive to NorwestCon in Seattle, and it would take 2 bell carts to get our clothing out to our room. Those poor bell guys. I mean, we tipped them well, but you know, they're like, oh my God, these people have more luggage than God.
Well,
and I also had a giant jellyfish the last time I was there. You know, anyway.
I'm doing the dealer's table, so I have to have my own cart basically.
Yeah, you need
roadies. I borrowed it the last few, but the I'm not.
You totally need roadies if you're going to do that. So yeah. I pay in
always
rum,
roped
by the
people in,
way.
too.
I pay in rum. So, you know, if anybody wants to cart my shit around, I'll pay you in rum and crumpets.
I used to pay my one line editor in rum, and my cover artist in lemon flavored vodka. So I was toying for a while with having, like, putting a press name on my stuff as opposed to just, you know, having it under my name. And I was thinking about Rum Runner Press. But then people would think I'm writing pirate books, which I'm really not. I just pay people in rum.
Did that answer your question, Mary? You gotta watch us reminiscing here when we actually get together and play with each other. Literally, yeah. Did that answer your question?
No, but that was all right.
You can always bug Cliff.
You can bug me.
Thank you for all of your work. I really appreciate seeing the different items you have behind you. And I was wondering if, when we close in a few minutes, if you could just slowly pan through those and let us see them all individually.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Could you
I'd
do that?
love to see a close up of the lace one because I have lace and I could do that. The black one right behind you, that, yes. Well, I could theoretically do that, you know, if I could like cut and sew and tie, I could do it.
See, this is a great steampunk one.
Yeah, that's why I was
This
eyeing it.
one, I haven't done it yet, but I want to find something and some nice color and band it right here at the top itself, like this one.
Yeah.
is.
It would
This
be,
one?
yeah. If we could get like patterns or instructions specifically on that one.
This is made from women's wear. You guys have some wonderful lace.
Good pattern.
And the 18th century really loved their lace. I had some really nice, soft like velour, and I use that for the under. You just make a little underpiece that is shorter than your lace is. I sewed one piece of lace on it, the length I wanted it to hang down, another piece to cover it, and I made sure that I had a few fingers of lace showing before the trim, and then I did it again with the top. And believe it or not, I actually sewed these edges on a sewing machine. Whew. Unbelievable. Yeah, I made this in about a half hour.
Yes, I might be able to do it in 2 or 3 weeks if Lorianne
tonight.
helps. Lorianne helped me with the hats,
No,
so she
I'm
knows
an
how helpless
amateur.
I am.
I'm an amateur sewer.
Yeah.
I have no idea where this came from, but it's similar. And what the heck? I'll wear just about anything. I
I'm
have
trying
no
to decide
shame.
whether this fabric is too god awful. It's from my old belly dance costume that doesn't fit anymore.
It doesn't look like it. Does
I
it have?
did
Beautiful.
I
Is it finished?
Do it.
Is
Do
it
it.
finished on one edge like this?
It
Does
is
it have
on
that
the
little trim on the
bottom.
bottom?
Yeah, the bottom is finished.
But
Does it have a little trim?
Just like sorry, I can't trying to figure out where my camera is. So
Oh,
there's
I have the
trim.
same problem.
Okay, Clifford, I have to say,
Ooh,
go
look
back
at that.
Yeah, you can cut that up just like I did and make this.
But go back to the blue collar that you just showed us. And then right behind your head, still in the frame, is the gray bow tie. And that, to your left, right there. If you put that on top of this, you said there are never too many ties. I think all of them go together well.
Oh yeah, you could.
I'm just saying.
I haven't worn this yet. I have no idea where it came from.
I can already see the stacking. Oh my God, you should see the shoes and the colors of my universe. I'm loving it.
I won't talk about shoes.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know how that happened either. So
Yeah. Lorianne knows my bit too, so we'll get on that later. But no, I'm just
you all need to follow Karen and see her beautiful flu vlogs.
Flu Vog shoes.
Yes. Oh gosh, they're gorgeous. Now, if they only made them in wide, I'm gonna have to try some on sometime. Maybe there's a style that will fit me.
They do wide, but the other thing is it's every color in the universe. The best thing about John Flubog 50th anniversary this year is just that there are no gender, any what have you about when it comes to what you expect about shoes and stuff. And I have gotten back into costuming in part because I got back into color because of this shoe company. Oh my gosh. Anyway,
You're going to have to grab a pair and show us. I really want to see Clifford in some fancy shoes that aren't black.
okay. Well, I actually, now that I've seen what Clifford has shown tonight, I will
You
be
have.
here. I can even pick a few ideas for you. Just what you've shared tonight. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Oh, you're very
thank you,
welcome.
Clifford.
Oh my God. This
How
has
do you
been-
spell the name of that shoe type?
Oh, it's Fluvog. His name is John, his first name. But the next one is FLUEVOG. It's a Canada company. But these are crazy people I just discovered about 3 years ago, and they got me all going in a whole, I mean, they actually do. I actually have bought from them styles that are really hearkening back to Victorian, Elizabethan age and everything else. And then he does it in modern colors and such. But anyway, yes, no, I'm a
look.
customer, run around my universe in color and dress like I want. So anyway, thank you, Clifford.
Oh, you're very
Yes,
welcome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clifford.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Clifford.
And if you post what it is that you want me to do, I will prepare it. Whenever I know what the biggest desire to be educated in is,
Okay.
whether it's how to tie them or material or how to make them.
Can you start the thread on the Facebook group?
Mhm.
Okay.
I will do something with Pinterest and try and do something for our
Yeah,
file.
You know, a lot of people don't like Pinterest, and it has kind of a learning curve to get rid of the ads and things, but it's a wonderful way to keep think of it more as it, they try to monetize everything. But the great thing about Pinterest is that it allows you to keep your bookmarks of visual subjects. I used to like save a million things on my hard drive. I'd be, at Victoria and Albert Museum. Oh my God, look at this. I have to save it. But I wouldn't want to keep all the details. That's way too much typing, But if you save the link, the picture in Pinterest, you can organize it any way you want. You could say, here's all the red dresses I like, or here's all the 18th century dresses. And of course, there's other people there that you can borrow their links. And it's just a wonderful, for us visual people, way to organize your internet searches, and then later go back and go, where was that dress? I can see that dress, but I don't remember the details of it. So anyway, I'd encourage you, that those of you, a lot of people will tell me, oh, I just hate Pinterest. Well, it's a tool. So use it if it serves you.
Are you playing your game? Thank you.
You're very welcome. And just watch your movies. And actually, I'm at the point now where I can start picking them out, and I'm like, that's not right. That's not right. If you're looking for modern stuff, watch an old movie and look at the clothing they're wearing in the year that it was made. If they make a 1940 detective movie, then you know what is 1940 attire. You know that's authentic. And I've done a lot of that.
And I will say, like, if you're looking at 18th century movies or even Renaissance movies that were made, especially in the 60s and 70s, the men's costumes will be excellent. And then the damn women, they'll give them a 70s haircut. And this will spoil you forever. But then, that's why we call it costume porn. And, you have a group watch, and it's like, drink every time you see the prom dress. So,
He's drinking.
I know he's drinking. But, it's all, this group. And I just want to say, a lot of people have had experiences with the Society for Creative Anachronism or some other group that was very picky about, oh, no, that's 1725, not 1750. That's a personal journey. if you want to research things to that point and tell us all about your 1749, this was introduced in October of that year by Beau Brummel. If you want to do that, that's great. But we're going to just love you and welcome you for the attempt. And this is something I should repeat all the time. In the past, especially maybe in the 80s and early 90s, when these costume groups were starting to get established, I think, I experienced some of this with conventions where we were kind of dissed. Costuming wasn't important. Writers were important. Actors were important. Movies were important. Now, comics are important, but costumes were not important. So a lot of costumers, I think, overreacted then and said, oh, I'm legitimate. Look, I studied my history and this is blah, 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 blah. And what it did is it turned off a lot of people.
Fortunately, I don't know, just for me coming from the writer's track, I just like looking at the costumes when they go down the hall,
And the other thing also, when you're talking about costuming, and again, this group has history in costuming way back earlier, but what you just mentioned is true. It's just that what and we shared a few stories tonight about what we were dressing in the 80s as, it's now costuming. And it's like it's a
bad costuming.
I know it was then too, but still. I'm sorry, when I go, okay, God, the 80s are now 40 years ago, and holy crap, that's now me looking at my parents and grandparents and Benny Goodwin and that shit. I'm going, no, I still have things in my closet that happened there.
Remember when 100 years was antique and 50 was vintage? Now it's like 30 and 50. 30 is vintage, 50 is antique.
And people are talking about vintage 80s. And I'm like, thinking, that's not vintage. And then I do the math and realize that that's the same span of time as like when I, was doing, when I was in the 80s, dressing in 60s clothing. It was like, oh God.
Does everybody know who RuPaul is? RuPaul's Drag Race.
We know.
Okay, this person is so really, I think he is a genuinely body accepting. He's a lot of drag queens and trans people and gay people have really gone through a lot of struggles about their identity. And there's one phrase that RuPaul says all the time, and that is, it's all drag, baby. So just remember that. You are every day, even when you go to work, in your work attire, that's drag. You are.
Oh, no, I gave up the suit, which was my drag attire.
Right.
When I gave up the suit a long time ago. I've gotten way better since then for getting a lot more creative.
I work at home now. I work in my jammies.
Well, I just wear good shoes when I work in my jammies. Anyway, no, but the only other part that I want to say about this group, and that's what triggered what I said, was just that, there's no in this group of era or a vintage or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's a question of, gosh, we've got anachronisms and costuming and cultural things and whatever. And I do like this group embracing all of that. So that's pretty fun. I mean,
so help us spread that message, I guess, is what I'd like to say. Is because I forget. I feel like, this group I've been in for 5 years. Prior to that, I was in informal groups for 5 years. I started a pirate group. I started a steampunk group here in Portland in 2006. I've known all these people all these years, and I just assume everybody knows who I am. And then someone new comes from, it's kind of like a religion. If you've ever, talked to someone about, oh my gosh, I grew up and I rejected whatever, my parents taught me or I thought was right. It's a personal journey, costuming. So, help me spread the good news that we love you and we welcome you. And, I adore people that weave their own cloth. That's just not me. I don't reject them. him. I mean, I might say, oh, dear God, can you just get it done? Because we have an event Tuesday.
And you do that too, and you collect people around you. But no, here's the funniest thing, though. I think you have your message across based upon the fact that my brother joined this group for me, but he didn't tell me about it for about a year and a half. And he knew that he joined you guys for me. And he said that tonight. And it was just like, oh, and that was my birthday present this year, finally. I don't have
We
to
really do have some of the sweetest members.
But here's the thing, your message is getting across.
Okay. Well, help me though, because I'm just one person. And I'm an old lady now, we need Micah spreading the news. We need to continue to be a multi-age group, not just as old folks.
No, and I'm just saying that don't be discouraged, because, I know I'm here because the message that you just shared was something that he got and knew and said, you need more people, and I've got people and what have you. And so you're out there, you reached him, you got me in too.
Yeah, so we need more cult members. That's just what it is.
I'm going to mention two famous people. I met Victoria Price, Vincent Price's daughter.
Okay.
If you ever look at that guy, he always looks like he's well dressed.
Right.
He did not like it.
Oh,
he didn't care about one whit about his clothes. And she put some pictures up there that everyone has seen before. And she said, that is a silk bathrobe belt that he was wearing around his they bring it around, they tied it like they did in the 60s, like, that was a silk bathrobe tie.
There we go.
And he would just grab anything. He really didn't care what it was.
Authentic people will tell you that it's a bathrobe tie. Other people will just never say a thing and assume that they bought it on Savile Row. So, there you go.
The good news
and it's about attitude.
We all here know that you don't have to buy at Savile Row. You can go to Goodwill. You can go to the fabric store and still make the same great thing. And that's, again, I'm going back to you for our delightful presentation tonight. But it's just,
Have a clap. Yay.
And if you ever want to know what goes with what, look at Samuel Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
He will take everything right to the limit. He will put things together that we were told don't go together, but they do. As long as you don't have horizontal and vertical stripes going, you can do stripes and checks and patterns all together. You just
all the time.
There's a way to do it. It's very fine tuning, but
I had friends who had an OCD son, and I was, stayed overnight with them a lot because they lived closer to my work than I do. And I would wear my polka dot pajama pants with my stripe fuzzy socks just to see him twitch. Two different colors of striped fuzzy socks.
Okay, you're messing with some kid's brain, but that's okay.
My daughter decided to fully embrace Pippi Longstocking in about 3rd grade and wear mismatched socks and plaids and dots. And I just said, she's dressed and she has shoes on. Okay. So children will desensitize you to the rules sometimes too.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Any closing words, Cliff? We've spoke several times, but anyway.
Socks. You know who Ron White is, the comedian?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, he's in a suit, right? He's
Texas.
Yeah. Pull his pants up, and you will see some of the funkiest socks you've ever seen. You'll never see the same pair.
Have you ever been, if you go somewhere really swanky, like the opera, even here in town, there's a lot of very formal men, executive, rich people that they really have embraced, at least the last few years, the fancy sock thing, because that's a way they can express their personality without it being obvious. You know, they can conform, you know, to their gender, you know, restrictions, but when it comes to socks, man, they can show off a bit. So thank God we have Sock Dreams in town. Everybody knows about Sock Dreams, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And now we just need to work on the cravat and the other.
I think we should start a trend. I want to see everybody next Thursday at the
Socks only.
Crazy Twisted Caroling event wearing a cravat and crazy socks. I don't care what else you wear.
Oh Lord.
Yeah,
Lori,
unfortunately, that's
Lori,
not
you-
going to happen for me in COVID time because I need someone to hold my hand to sew anything.
Don't sew it. Cut a piece of fabric, wrap it around your neck. Start there.
Well,
And
we'll see.
that's it.
We'll
You'll
see
never-
what happens.
On the resolution on our screen, we will not see your beautiful hand sewed rolled hem. We will not see it.
And Lorian already knows because she's seen my photos. You all have not, but my crazy sock and crazy color, like my new brand new shoes, are pink, orange, yellow, purple, coral, and what have you. And I have socks to match.
Sounds
So
like Christmas colors to me.
He already knows I can fit that bill, but well, actually I am, because these are my brand new shoes I just got from that place, Fluvog. Anyway, I'm going, this is what I'm wearing between now and the end of the year, because nobody else sees me every day knowing I'm wearing the same clothes that I love so much. So, all right, I'm in for Christmas carols.
Okay, so just remind everybody next Thursday, 7 p.m. And let's see. Karen got back to me and proofread the doc. I might call Christy tonight or tomorrow and just make sure that the schedule, Christy Holden, it will be our co-host. Make sure she's on board with the schedule. And we have Mike and Julie from Otter Crossing playing music for us. Oh, you guys all know this. All the people that need to know this are already gone. So anyway, Clifford, if you could remind people to wear their cravat and in that thread, remind people to wear a cravat next Thursday.
Doggy.
Oh, it's a beautiful tie.
I'm new.
Oh, doggy has a tie.
Clifford, wait, no, I'm new to this group, so I don't know the doggy's name, and I love the tie. But hello, I need an introduction.
I'm gonna log off. So
yeah,
Clifford, you're co-host. You can end the meeting anytime. Bye-bye.
What's the dog's name?
That's Humphrey Bogart.
Humphrey Bogart.
Yay.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
Now we can
That's
leave.
my
Now that
Bobo.
we know what
Now
the
I
dog's
can
name
go to
is.
sleep. Now that I've met the
Yes.
names of my new friends.
Yes, I need to do some editing and then I will be going to sleep. Good night, all.
Good night.
Thank you for coming.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you for having this.
Oh, no
Yes.
problem at all.
Thank you.